Chapter 4 The Avalon Experience. Maleficent casually strolled into the conference room of the mansion. This chamber was decorated with various vases depicting Hades and his exploits. Maleficent sneered at the aesthetic choice. "A change of scene is required for good measure," Maleficent chanted. "Take new form at your mistress's pleasure." Green fires exploded outward from the evil fairy, and as the flames touched the walls and furniture, they changed to reflect Maleficent's medieval aesthetic. Satisfied, Maleficent took her place at the head of a large conference table. The orb atop her staff began to glow a sickly green. "To me, my overtakers!" she commanded. One by one, the overtakers filed into the room. Russell was first, soon followed by Ursula and Fish. Loki teleported in next, and then Hades did as well. Hades grimaced as he looked around. I don't exactly recall giving permission to remodel," Hades grumbled. The Overtakers sat in silence for a few minutes, awaiting the arrival of their last associate. "Where is Dr. Doom?" Maleficent asked after a moment, growing impatient. Everyone's eyes drifted towards Loki to look for an answer. "Contrary to popular belief, I am not Doom's keeper," Loki said with a scoff. Doom arrived through a corridor of darkness almost immediately following Loki's statement. Loki took note of the method of Doom's arrival. Earlier, Doom had to ask for Loki's help creating a corridor of darkness, and now, since salvaging equipment from his laboratory, somehow Doom could do it himself. The riddle intrigued Loki. Punctuality means something, babe," Hades said. "Okay, tick-tock, we got stuff on the agenda." "Doom arrives as he pleases," Doom replied. "Enough," Maleficent declared. She glared down both Doom and Hades to remind them of their place. Hades immediately backed off, but Doom met her glare with equal intensity. This one was going to be difficult to keep under control, she realized. "The time is upon us to establish our power," Maleficent said, moving on. "We must claim a decisive victory. Yet the time is not yet right to seek the Book of Prophecies or settle old scores. We need a base of power more worthy of our forces." "I take it you have a particular world already in mind?" Loki asked. "Yes," Maleficent nodded. "There was a certain gathering to which I did not receive an invitation. An oversight, I'm quite sure. Nevertheless, I require recompense for this offense, and their precious island shall do nicely." In the center of the conference table, an image took form of a beautiful island with mountains, forests, and a magnificent castle in the center of it. "Avalon," Loki said out loud, recognizing the image. "An ambitious target, to be sure." "Long ago was I banished from Oberon's fair isle," Maleficent explained. "Now, with the gathering at a close, it is the perfect time to return and claim it as my own." "Oberon, the king of the fairies?" Russell asked. "For now, yes," Maleficent nodded. "Avalon is the homeworld of all fairies." Delicious," Russell said, licking his lips. "I can't wait for that feast." "Listen well, all of you," Maleficent declared, "for I have a plan to lead us to victory." After the meeting, as the various villains awaited departure, Loki pulled Doom aside into a private nook out of earshot of the rest of the Overtakers. "My good doctor, I see your talents are expanding," Loki said. "You state an obvious observation as if it were some grand secret," Doom said, attempting to walk away from the trickster. Loki put up an arm to block Doom from proceeding and flashed Doom a coy smirk. "The Corridor of Darkness," Loki said plainly. "If I recall, you required my aid to cast that spell before. I'm most intrigued at how you managed such a feat, given that I provided no instruction." In such close proximity, Doom could feel Loki's icy breath even through his mask. It was not an unpleasant sensation, but the words creeping off the Liesmith's tongue were decidedly less desirable. "I consider you an ally better than any others," Doom said, "but do not mistake my fondness for you as an invitation to pry into my affairs. It will be enough for you to know that I learned the spell." Doom brushed Loki's arm aside and stormed away. He was hiding something, that much was becoming self-evident. True, it was clearly something Doom wanted to keep private, and Loki would be an absolutely horrid ally and friend to pry any further. So of course Loki was now intent on discovering exactly what it was. At the gates of Avalon, a large barge floated to guard the isle from intruders. Luna, Phoebe, and Selene, the infamous Weird Sisters, stood vigilant, acting as the gatekeepers. They were summoned to the barge when a spell to enter Avalon's waters was cast. The triplets stood, fair and firm, to greet the rowboat sailing up to them. Within the boat stood an old man and his wife, both dressed in peasants' rags. "Halt!" the three commanded in unison.
"My husband and I seek refuge," the woman spoke. "Our home world has fallen into peril, and we knew not where else to go. Please, provide us sanctuary." "Do you think us fools?" Luna asked. "Your glamour magic does not hide your identities from us," Phoebe continued. "The stench of your magic is far too great," Celine added. "Revert!" they commanded. A powerful gust of wind blew over the peasants in the boat. The magical bluster tore away the glamour spells, revealing Loki and Hades' true forms plain to see. "Alpha plus work there with the glamour there, Loki boy," Hades said sarcastically. "I'm so sure they'd never see us coming." "Loki of Asgard," Luna said, "and Hades of Olympus," Phoebe added. "Traitors to your lords," Celine said. "You are not welcome on Avalon's shores," they declared. "Welcome or not, we will be entering Avalon this day," Loki said plainly. "You dare challenge us?" Celine asked. "That I do," Loki nodded. "However, it's not me you really should be worried about." Something large beneath the water struck the barge hard enough to shake it, leaving the Weird Sisters suddenly very frightened. "It's her," Loki said with a smirk. With an evil cackle, Ursula sprouted from beneath the waves in her gigantic form. She towered over the barge, and her immense tentacles began to wrap around the boat menacingly. "Surprise, surprise!" Ursula bellowed. "Looks like I've got the upper tentacle here." The Weird Sisters began to charge up an attack to launch at Ursula together, but their spell was broken when Celine was blasted backwards by a fireball. Hades teleported aboard the barge and began to barrage Celine with a multitude of fire attacks that she struggled to deflect. Ursula's lightning breath divided up Phoebe and Luna from one another, preventing them from rushing to their sister's aid. Loki cast an apparition in his hands and spoke into it. "The plan is in motion." On the far side of the isle, in the hollow hill where the Magus' final resting place was located, a corridor of darkness opened. Russell, Fish, and Doom emerged and were followed soon by Maleficent herself. She smiled devilishly as she breathed in a taste of the magical air of her former home for the first time in thousands of years. It was certainly good to be back. "And now, this world shall be mine." Chapter 5, Ill Met by Moonlight. Maleficent, Dr. Doom, Russell Edgington, and Fish Mooney made their way to the mouth of the cave, and flickers of light shined on the rocks up ahead. Russell immediately stopped dead in his tracks. "Is it daylight out there?" Russell asked. "I'm not exactly much use when the sun is present." "Avalon does not possess the same concepts of day and night as most worlds," Maleficent explained. "On Avalon, when a creature of darkness is present, it is always night." "Good to know," Russell said, continuing forward. "I was fresh out of any sunblock." Doom scoffed. "Such weakness." Russell flashed his fangs at Doom. "You want to test that?" "I have little need to test a foregone conclusion," Doom retorted. Girls, you're both pretty," Fish interjected. "Let's focus on the task before us." The quartet exited the hollow hill, and immediately Russell was overwhelmed with the most delicious scent he'd ever smelled. The fairy nightclub that Russell attacked before his death had smelled heavenly, but that was nothing compared to Avalon itself. There was so much magic and so many fairies nearby that Russell felt like his very nose was being assaulted by an army of flowers and pastries and happy memories. "Oh, mercy," Russell said, his voice shaking. "Russell, are you okay?" Fish asked, growing a bit concerned. There was a brief rustle in the bushes a few yards away, and as swiftly as a speeding bullet, Russell dashed over and tackled whatever had made the noise. The other three overtakers could hear what sounded like an old Russian man crying out for help, along with ravenous slurping coming from Russell. The party approached him just in time to see a Domovoy fairy dissolve into dust as Russell drank the very last drop out of it. "Holy fuck!" Russell exclaimed. "I feel like I could prance naked in the sunlight." "Spare us the mental image," Doom muttered. "What's going on with him?" Fish asked, utterly confused. "Fairy blood," Russell exclaimed. "It's like sucking from the titties of God." "The blood of the Light Fae has long been a delicacy for vampires," Maleficent explained.
It allows them to walk in the sun, but with the caveat that they become rather inebriated.
Is there more? Russell asked. Control yourself, Maleficent commanded. He was already a weak link in our operation, Doom said, and now he is nothing more than dead weight. I do not understand why you allowed him to join us, Maleficent.
Do not presume to discount my judgment, Maleficent warned. Vampires are a useful tool to fight against Oberon's children. It was your inclusion that gave me greater pause, Doom. See to it that I have no reason to second-guess myself. Maleficent and Russell proceeded onwards, and Doom prepared the weaponry systems of his armor to defend his honor. However, he was interrupted by Fish stepping in front of him. She wagged her finger and clicked her tongue twice. I wouldn't do that if I were you, she said. This whole overtakers thing can either be very profitable for all of us, or it can be profitable for none of us.
Doom does not require a lecture, Doom said, proceeding forward.
No, hang on, listen to what I have to say for a minute, Fish said as she blocked his path. Look, I get that you're a man of pride. I can relate. But what value does that pride truly get you? It's isolating, it's cold, and it's not profitable. Sure, you can keep butting heads with Maleficent until it boils over and one of you destroys the other.
I would be the victor in that battle, Doom boasted.
Or, Fish said, pointing her index finger in Doom's face, you can cooperate with her and the rest of us and get everything you've ever wanted. People like us are so used to being lone wolves and doing everything ourselves because no one can match our vision and drive. But here, we don't have to be. We get to be a part of something, and you can't tell me that you don't on some level crave that connection.
Doom was silent for a moment before speaking up. Doom will take your words under consideration, Miss Mooney, but do not presume to tell Dr. Doom what he should do ever again.
All things considered, Fish couldn't have asked for a better result. Back on the barge at the gates of Avalon, the battle continued to rage on. Phoebe, the golden-haired sister of Grace, crossed blades with Loki. True to her title, Phoebe fought gracefully with her moonstone-forged sword. Loki himself had difficulty parrying her blows. Every blast of green magic he hurled her way, she dodged, almost as if dancing out of the way. She lunged forward and drove her blade through Loki's chest. Unfortunately for her, Loki was no mere swordsman, and the illusion dissipated upon contact. A sharp pain and the sight of a sword piercing out through her chest told her everything she needed to know about Loki's honor. Weakened by the touch of the iron blade and lacking any strength to continue to fight, Phoebe mustered her last bit of power to transform into a will-o'-the-wisp and flee the scene. Luna, the silver-haired sister of fate, found herself face-to-face with Ursula. Luna's shield of moonlight protected her from the barrage of lightning that Ursula summoned to rain down upon the sister, but the sea witch was relentless.
To the depths with you!
Ursula shouted as she blew gigantic bubbles at Luna. Luna managed to pop each incoming bubble with a blast of concentrated moonlight, but was not prepared when Ursula's tentacles slapped her down to the deck.
This won't be pretty,
Ursula warned as she called down another bolt of lightning. This time, Luna could not put up her shield in time to avoid taking a direct hit from the lightning bolt. Everything on her body stung, and it felt like all of her energy had been drained. With one last will of magic, Luna turned herself into a wisp and followed after Phoebe. Selene, the black-haired sister of Vengeance, found herself contending with Hades. Wielding a magical vine-like whip adorned with moon lilies, Selene managed to swipe away the fireballs Hades threw at her. Once she had an opening, she slung her whip directly for Hades' neck. However, much to her disappointment, Hades caught it mid-air.
Sorry, babe, but I'm gonna have to whip you into shape,
Hades quipped. A hot stream of fire engulfed the whip and burned Selene's hand, causing her to drop her weapon. Hades was now spinning the burning whip above his head, ready for a fatal strike. Selene's magic was considerably weaker without her sisters, but she managed to call forth a powerful gust of wind to come to her aid. The wind doused the flames both on the whip and atop Hades' head.
Ah, great, not again,
Hades bemoaned, rubbing his bald head. Selene noticed her sisters retreating and saw both Loki and Ursula turn their attention towards her. Even if she could continue to hold her own against Hades with no weapon, defeating the other two overtakers as well would be a nigh impossible challenge. She thirsted for vengeance on her attackers, but she knew retreat was the only option. She followed her sister's examples and vanished from the scene just in time to avoid Ursula's lightning breath.
Boom, bada, boom, boom, boom!
Hades celebrated. Your hair is still out, Loki said, stifling a chuckle. Hades growled and reignited it. Ursula held her hands out to her two companions on the barge.
All aboard,
she called as they stepped into her palms.
Next stop, the shores of Avalon.
Ursula swam into the shallows and set Hades and Loki down on the beach. With the snap of her fingers, she shrunk down in size back to her normal stature. However, as she attempted to slither onto shore, she hit an invisible barrier.
"What is the meaning of this?" Ursula shouted.
"No magics may enter here save Avalon's own," Loki said, repeating Oberon's ancient law. Ursula's golden seashell necklace started to glow in recognition of this truth. Ursula scowled, but removed the necklace and dropped it into the sea.
"I'll be coming back for that," Ursula declared as she crawled onto shore.
"Sheesh, those weird sisters were creepy," Hades said. "I mean, can you imagine having to look just like your siblings? Bolt Boy and Popo got no business looking this handsome." "Thor's overdeveloped physique certainly made him popular with the womenfolk," Loki groaned, "but all that is nothing compared to my conniving intellect." "Besides, babe, everybody knows beefy, bearded macho men like Thor and Zeusy are overrated," Hades added. "It's the brainy bad boys who really score on the hottie meter."
"And brainy bad girls," Ursula interjected.
Loki laughed. "Indeed. Hades, you and I certainly have our fair share of commonality. Both of us have been denied our rightful place by our pompous thunder elemental brothers."
"What is it about thunderheads that just breeds irritating brothers?" Hades pointed out loud.
"Do you have any siblings, Ursula?" Loki asked.
"Yes, but I was the favorite child, unlike both of you," Ursula added.
"You are such a bitch, babe," Hades said, bumping shoulders with Ursula.
"Though I do relate to the enduring annoying presence of a sibling you'd rather see dead," Ursula added. "Morgana would give me the worst headaches."
"I believe we can all agree that being an only child is truly a gift wasted on ingrates," Loki said, which earned vehement agreement from his cohorts. Maleficent halted in her tracks and held up a hand to instruct the others to do the same. Someone, another fairy, was approaching. Russell started twitching at the sight of it, hungry for another taste, but he held back so as not to disobey Maleficent. She alone approached the fairy in their paths. "Who goes there?" Maleficent asked. The fairy did not speak. As it stepped further into the light of Maleficent's scepter, the reason for the fairy's silence became apparent. This fairy, whom Maleficent recognized as the Banshee, had a golden muzzle covering her mouth, placed there by magic. "Oberon's handiwork, I presume," Maleficent said. The Banshee merely nodded. "Alas, I cannot free you from Oberon's trap," Maleficent said, "not whilst he remains Lord of Avalon." The Banshee hung her head in disappointment. "That is why it is in your best interest to help me usurp him," Maleficent continued. The Banshee immediately perked up and began nodding eagerly. "Tell me," Maleficent began, "are you familiar with the catacombs beneath Oberon's castle?" "I shall only be gone for a week, my lord," Titania said as she kissed Oberon on the cheek.
"Give my regards to young Alexander," Oberon said.
"I shall, my lord," Titania nodded before coyly adding, "and to Puck as well."
"Puck made his choice," Oberon said sternly. "We do not have anything further to say to him."
Titania smirked and stepped through the magic mirror to Manhattan. No sooner had the queen departed when the doors to Oberon's audience chamber slung open. The Weird Sisters sputtered in, grievously injured from their battle on the barge.
"Speak," Oberon commanded.
"Loki, Hades, and a sea witch have attacked, my lord," Phoebe said. "We fought them back as best we could," Selene added. "However, still they come," Luna explained. Oberon gritted his teeth.
"An attack on my isle cannot be tolerated."
Oberon proceeded over to one of his magic mirrors and commanded it to put him in contact with Princess Catherine. She was taken off guard by his message, but composed herself with the regality of a princess. "Yes, my lord. How may I help you?" Catherine asked.
"The gargoyles are our honor guard of Avalon," Oberon said. "It is time for them to earn their keep. Invaders approach. We would see the isle defended."
"I shall inform Tom and Gabriel at once, my lord," Catherine said with a bow. "My lord, our intruders are gods and sorcerers," Phoebe said. "They were capable of besting us," Luna added. "Mere gargoyles cannot defeat them," Selene declared.
"Mere gargoyles defeated you and the Archmage, if I recall," Oberon said. "It is not wise to underestimate them, especially since they spared my life."
Ursula, Hades, and Loki made their way to the apple orchards outside of the castle walls. Avalon's crop included both normal apples and special golden apples from the garden of the Hesperides. Hades briefly wondered whether the golden apples were a gift from Hera or something stolen from under her nose. The Queen of the Gods was never much one for sharing her treasures.
Well, 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 Ursula chuckled. It appears we have company.
From the skies above, 10 of the clan's finest gargoyle warriors descended to greet the invaders, and from the ground came 2 gargoyle beasts and 1 human knight clad in metal armor.
We do not wish for bloodshed, the lead gargoyle known as Gabriel said as he landed before the villains, but our clan is honor-bound to defend Avalon and Lord Oberon from all who wish it harm. How adorable. Oberon keeps pets, Loki chuckled. And unfortunately for you, we happen to love bloodshed, Ursula added with a sinister laugh. I fear we're contending with a lot similar to the Archmage, the knight Tom said. They know nothing but conquest and power. Got that right, babe, Hades said, hurling balls of fire into the crowd of gargoyles, causing them to scatter. And so the fight began. The Avalon clan may have had the numbers, but nothing could truly prepare them from the horrors these 3 villains could inflict. Oberon watched through his mirror the battle between the gargoyles and the invaders. Though the gargoyles initially managed to get the upper hand, eventually the dark magic of the Overtakers caused grievous injury to several of the slower gargoyles. It was clear that the Avalon clan would not win this day alone. Oberon resigned to attending to this matter personally. It appears the Lord of Avalon must do everything himself, Oberon lamented. A bolt of purple lightning struck at his feet before he could take another step forward. What sorcery? Oberon cried out, turning to face the source. Standing on the other side of his audience chamber was Maleficent, Russell, Fish, Doom, and the Banshee. Now, Maleficent said, let your gargoyles keep my associates company a moment longer. We have much to discuss, old friend. Chapter 6. Checkmate. Maleficent, Oberon spat. You were banished from Avalon shores by my own decree. You return at your own peril. No, quite the opposite, Maleficent replied. I return at your peril, Lord Oberon. A storm began to gather outside with Oberon's temper. He clenched his teeth as lightning crackled behind him. You think your assemblage of thugs gives you power? Oberon bellowed. I am the Lord and Master of Avalon. The very island bends to my will. You've always been one for cheap theatrics and boastful pride, Maleficent sneered. Glass houses, Fish whispered to Russell, prompting a chuckle from him. And Banshee, Oberon said, turning his attention to their new companion. You dare challenge me when I am the one who can restore your voice to you? A very poor decision indeed. She knows a better offer when she hears one, Maleficent said. Now then, I shall claim your world for my own, Lord Oberon. You failed to best me long ago, Maleficent, Oberon reminded her. I doubt you'll fare any better this time. We are not without mercy, and thus we offer but one chance for you to leave with your lives and never return. How kind of you, Maleficent sneered. Fish, now! Fish whipped out her pistol and fired 3 rounds into Oberon's chest. The king of the fairies recoiled in pain, and his body clearly began to wither before their eyes. Iron bullets, Oberon said in recognition. A cheap tactic. Russell, you are next, Maleficent said. Within a blink of an eye, Russell blitz attacked Oberon. He sunk his fangs into Oberon's neck and greedily began to suck the blood of the Fairy King. Enough! Oberon shouted, transforming himself into a tornado and throwing Russell off him. Sweet mercy! Russell shouted, picking himself up. You're the most delicious thing I've ever tasted! Oberon was very visibly weakened. Moments ago he seemed indomitable, but now, having been exposed to iron and drained substantially of his blood, he seemed like a shadow of his former self. A cheap tactic, Oberon spat. You knew you could not beat me on your own merits, and so you hide behind iron bullets and vampires. How weak! Oh, I can assure you, Lord Oberon, Maleficent said as green fires began to glow around her, you will fall this day by my own merits.
The gargoyle Ophelia cried out in pain as the fire singed her wing. She fell like a stone into the dirt. Gabriel glided away from his opponent to rush to her side immediately. "I think now is the time for a tactical retreat, Gabriel," Tom said, breathing heavily as he staggered over to the two gargoyles. "Gargoyles protect the castle," Gabriel said. "We can't just give up now. Oberon is counting on us." "I fear if we don't, our clan will suffer far worse than it already has," Tom said. Gabriel felt the impending weight of his decision, but the encroaching threat of Loki, Hades, and Ursula and his clan's already substantial injuries made the only option clear. "Fall back," Gabriel commanded, scooping up Ophelia in his arms. The gargoyles immediately began to flee back to their wing of the castle. Hades summoned up a ball of fire in each of his hands. "Like shooting gargoyles in a barrel, bada bing," Hades said. "No," Loki said, holding up a hand to halt Hades' attack. "Let them go. They may one day be of use to us. No sense in expending our energies needlessly slaughtering. We have a more pressing task to attend to." Oberon's throne room burned with green fires. Maleficent turned the entire room into an arena of death. Oberon attempted to douse the flames by calling upon the winds of Avalon, but in his weakened state he could not muster enough energy to outmatch the mistress of all evil. Most of his magics had to be spent maintaining a protection spell to block out the thunderbolts Maleficent hurled at him without mercy. The Weird Sisters, ever loyal to their master, attempted to intervene to help, but they found themselves blocked by the other Overtakers. Russell got a hold of Celine almost immediately and began to drink from her without pause. She attempted a spell to free herself, but with her sisters injured and her own powers waning, she was utterly trapped until the last drop of blood left her veins. She dissolved into dust as Luna and Phoebe cried out in pain and despair. "No!" Doom had Luna gripped by the neck. Normally she could have freed herself easily, but Doom's iron armor made it impossible for her to break his hold or even muster the energy to cast any spell. "Release me," Luna pled, "and I will grant any wish you so desire." "There is nothing you can offer that is beyond Doom's ability to take for himself," Doom said. "I am the sister of fate," Luna proclaimed. "My powers can alter your very destiny." "Doom's destiny is his own to chart," he replied, "but your powers will aid in seeing that come to fruition." Stealing Odin's powers required a complex ritual atop Raven's spire. However, Luna, particularly in her weakened state, was far easier a conquest. With the right spell in place, Luna's energies poured into Doom. Her fairy magics became his own. Doom released the powerless sister, and she fell limply to the floor. "Mr. Edgington, if you have not already thoroughly gorged yourself, you may dispose of this powerless fool," Doom said. Russell dashed over greedily to finish the job. Phoebe was the last of the Weird Sisters left standing. She found herself cornered by Fish Mooney and the Banshee. With her mouth muzzled, the Banshee did not have her magical voice at her disposal, but that did not mean she could not still transform herself. She took the form of Crom Cruach, the Death Worm, and lashed out at Phoebe with her mighty tail. Phoebe, who was still recovering from being impaled by Loki, was tossed about like a rag doll. Though the Banshee could not speak to gloat, Phoebe knew that this was the Irish fairy's revenge for the Weird Sisters bringing her back to Avalon for the gathering. Phoebe laid on the floor, despairing the loss of her sisters and feeling thoroughly defeated from her wounds. Without her sisters around, she could feel herself becoming more mortal and more flesh. She may have been the sister of grace, but there was no grace she could muster anymore at this point. Fish Mooney knelt down and placed her hands on Phoebe's face. Phoebe could feel Fish's toxins seeping into her flesh, but she could do nothing about it. "Poor thing," Fish said. "I can be your new sister. Would you like that?" Phoebe nodded, compelled to agree with whatever Fish said. "Stand up, sweetie," Fish said, helping Phoebe to her feet. "Now walk forward." Phoebe did as she was told. She found herself directly in front of Maleficent's emerald flames. "Go on," Fish said. "I never said stop." Phoebe walked directly into the fires and found herself engulfed. Her magic sizzled and exploded, signifying the final end of the dreaded Weird Sisters. Maleficent's hypnotic powers danced around Oberon's head, bidding him to surrender and give in to the hand of death. He shook them aside as best he could, but dealing with this assault on his mind required taking attention away from the physical threat before him. "Meteors of heaven, unleash thy fury!" Maleficent called out. A dark portal opened behind her, and large blue meteors shot out directly towards Oberon. He attempted to use his telekinetic powers to hold them back, but he was not strong enough to do so. The celestial rock slammed into the King of Fairies and pushed him through the walls of the castle. He tumbled down to the ground outside the castle walls. Oberon smiled to himself. Maleficent's attack had worked in his favor. She'd inadvertently freed him from the dark arena she'd conjured and knocked him into a playing field where he had contact with Avalon's natural earth and plant life. He could recharge his energies by drawing upon the power of Avalon itself. Oberon attempted to draw strength from the ground beneath his feet, but he strangely found nothing to aid him. He gritted his teeth in frustration and looked down to see that the ground beneath his feet and all around the castle had been scorched by flame and salted by iron shavings. Avalon's prized orchard was completely decimated.
"What evil is this?" Oberon shouted in frustration. "So sorry, big man," Ursula said with a chuckle, "but you're not going to be regaining any of your strength today."
"Think of it as a reinforced magic-free diet," Hades added. Maleficent materialized in front of Oberon. "Did you truly believe me to be foolish enough to allow you the chance to regain your strength?"
Oberon grunted. "I will not allow—"
"You will not allow what?" Maleficent interrupted. "You are in no position to allow anything. And now, there is one final matter with which I must attend." From behind, Loki wrapped Oberon in iron chains that held him firm. Maleficent raised her staff, and the orb atop it began to glow green. A flurry of flames roared beside her, and when the fire subsided, a large bluish-green crystal was standing before them. Oberon's eyes widened in recognition. "As I'm sure you're already aware, this is a marvelous tool crafted by sorcerers in Agrabah," Maleficent said. "It is known in that land as the Crystal of Ix. My previous associate Jafar possessed one before he died, and so I claimed it as my own. It holds great power, the power to trap magical creatures and absorb their powers, and all it requires to work is a single word." Maleficent nodded to her associates, and they all vanished into corridors of darkness to stay clear of the crystal's powers. Maleficent grinned wickedly. "Ixtala!" Maleficent shouted. The crystal surged with power and began to look for a magical target as if it were a lighthouse. Eventually, its beam found Oberon. He immediately became sucked into the path of energy. The chains binding him fell to the ground empty with a clang, as Oberon found himself frozen within the Crystal of Ix. Maleficent cackled with evil glee. "All the powers of Avalon are now mine!"